Every year, we all toss out millions of tons of electronics. Old phones, laptops, TVs. But have you ever stopped to wonder where it all actually goes? Well, the answer is a lot more complicated and a whole lot more valuable than you probably think. So here's what we're going to get into today. We're going to unpack this massive global challenge of electronic waste. We'll start with the big picture, and then we're going to zoom right into Nepal to see not just the scale of the problem, but also some of the really incredible, innovative solutions that are starting to take shape there. Okay, so let's start with a really simple question. Think about the last phone or laptop you replaced. What happened to it? Because it doesn't just, vanish. It enters this massive global stream of what we call e-waste. And that stream, it's growing unbelievably fast. We are talking about 50 million tons of this stuff produced globally every single year. I mean, to give you some idea of how much that is, it's about the same weight as every commercial airliner ever built. And that number, it's just getting bigger. All right, so let's dive into this global challenge. Because at the very heart of the e-waste problem, there's this fascinating paradox. It's both a really dangerous hazard and an incredibly valuable resource, all at the same time. So what exactly is e-waste? Well, it's basically a catch-all term for any discarded electronic device. We're talking phones, computers, refrigerators, TVs, you name it. Sometimes you'll see it called WEE. That just stands for Waste Electrical and Electronic Equipment. But really, the simple rule is, if it's got a plug or a battery, it's eventually going to become e-waste. And this is where that paradox just jumps right out at you. On one hand, these devices are filled with nasty stuff, toxic substances like lead and mercury that can seriously harm our environment. But at the exact same time, they're like these little urban mines, packed with precious metals. Just look at the price of gold. The value per ton shot up by over $11 million in less than a decade. We are literally burying treasure in our trash. So this huge global problem has some very real, very local consequences. And to really get a handle on them, we're going to focus in on Nepal, where a story is unfolding that kind of reflects the challenges and the opportunities that a lot of developing nations are facing right now. Just like everywhere else, the e-waste mountain in Nepal is growing at a pretty alarming rate. I mean, it took just 2 years for the annual amount to jump from 18,000 to 28,000 tons. That's an explosion. And that kind of growth puts a ton of pressure on a system that's already struggling to keep up. So, where is all this stuff actually going? Well, a 2020 survey gives us a pretty clear picture. The vast majority of it, you can see, ends up with informal collectors or just gets stored at home, out of sight, out of mind. A tiny fraction of people are using a formal recycling company. That right there shows you the huge gap between the problem and the solution. And this reliance on informal collectors, it's a real double-edged sword. In Kathmandu alone, more than 10,000 people make their living from recyclables. And that's absolutely vital. But the methods they use are often super dangerous, like burning wires in the open just to get the copper out. That releases all sorts of toxic fumes that hurt people and the planet. So, faced with this growing mountain of electronic trash, the government of Nepal knew they had to do something. They recognized the need for a real plan and started to put together an official response. A huge turning point came back in 2017. The Nepal Telecommunications Authority published this consultation paper that, really for the first time, laid out a complete vision for a formal, regulated way to manage the country's e-waste. The goals they set out were pretty ambitious. They wanted to create a complete end-to-end system. The idea was to protect the environment, get the public aware of the problem, and build a formal system for collection and recycling. And maybe most important of all, it was about defining exactly who is responsible for what, every step of the way. But policy papers are great, but they're just the beginning. The real action, where change actually happens, is on the ground. And that brings us to the story of a pioneering company that's taking these ideas and making them real. So meet Doko Recyclers. In 2018, they became Nepal's first formally registered company for managing e-waste. And their whole mission isn't just about getting rid of trash. It's about creating a local circular economy by turning that waste back into something valuable. So how'd they start? By making it super easy for people to do the right thing. They partnered with big electronics brands to set up public collection points, giving people a convenient, responsible choice other than the trash can or the back of a closet. From those collection points, everything goes to Doko's e-lab, and in there, trained technicians follow these really strict, safe procedures to take everything apart. If a device can be repaired, they refurbish it and give it a second life. Everything else gets carefully broken down to recover every last valuable component. And this next part is so smart. To show that their model actually works, Doko gives their clients these impact certificates. These reports spell out exactly how much energy, water, and oil was saved because of their recycling. It's this powerful tool that makes the environmental benefits real and totally transparent. So pioneers like Doko really show what's possible when policy meets action. But trying to scale this kind of solution up to cover an entire country, well, that means you're going to face some pretty major challenges. And there are still some pretty big hurdles. For one, those government policies need to become actual laws that are enforced. Formal recyclers have to figure out how to compete economically with the informal sector. And on a bigger level, it takes a whole cultural shift. Manufacturers need to design greener products, and all of us as consumers have to change our habits for good. In the end, the solution really comes down to a fundamental shift in how we think about our electronics. Just like the team at Doko says, this isn't about waste. It's about resources that we can and we absolutely must keep in use. And that really brings the whole issue back home to us, doesn't it? As the ones who buy, use, and get rid of all these devices, how can our own choices help build a truly sustainable future for electronics? Not just in Nepal, but everywhere.